I transmigrated into a book. Specifically, I became the ultimate simp for the female lead in a trashy romance novel. The story opened right in the middle of her spite-fueled date with the male lead. To provoke the billionaire CEO on the other end of the phone, she tilted her chin at me and demanded, "Feed me." I picked up the steak and stuffed it into my own mouth with a deadpan expression. "Sorry, I'm new to the job. Still learning the ropes." Then, pointing at the aggressive figure charging toward us from outside the window, I gave her a calm heads up. "Also, your man is here. According to the plot, he's about to flip this table and beat the hell out of me. Do me a favor and tell him not to bruise my face. I have an interview this afternoon." I thought that by dodging a beating, I could settle into a peaceful life as a corporate drone. I never expected my reverse psychology would cause the love-struck female lead to wake up on the spot and start tearing the CEO a new one to focus on her career. Meanwhile, the CEO, who previously saw me as a romantic rival, realized his fists were useless and started throwing bags of cash at me to be his relationship consultant. Later, the now successful ex-female lead cornered me in the lobby of my office building, her eyes burning with intensity. "Liam, do I finally have what it takes to date you now?" Behind her, the ex-CEO stood clutching a stack of checks, looking like he was on the verge of a mental breakdown. "I paid you $1 million for your coaching. Is this what you taught her?" Me? I just wanted to scream. I really just wanted to keep my job and clock out on time. "Stop giving me more scenes." Sophie Vance's eyes were wide as saucers. "Liam Miller, have you lost your mind?" She stared at me in disbelief, as if I hadn't just eaten a piece of steak, but her very heart and soul. "My mind is perfectly fine. In fact, I'm feeling a bit of a rush," I said, dabbing my mouth with a napkin while my eyes scanned the room for an exit. No back door, only the main entrance. And right at the main entrance, a man in a tailored suit, radiating pure malice, was storming toward us. Gavin Sterling, the above-the-law male lead of this book. In the original story, the original Liam was supposed to be lovingly holding a piece of meat to Sophie's lips right now, only for Gavin to punch two of his front teeth out. From that point on, he didn't just lose his job, he developed a permanent lisp. I instinctively covered my mouth. For the sake of my health insurance, my 401k, and my 2:30 p.m. interview, I could not take that punch. The atmosphere in the restaurant plummeted to sub-zero. Gavin's presence was undeniably powerful. Waiters scrambled out of his path. He marched straight to our table, his gaze savage enough to draw blood. "Sophie." The roar made the wine glasses on the table tremble. Sophie flinched, her arrogant spark vanishing instantly. She instinctively ducked behind me. "Lady, are you serious? You're using me as a meat shield right now?" Gavin's eyes sliced into me like a blade. He reached out and grabbed me by the collar. Damn it, the suffocation was real. I was just a 5'10" corporate weakling facing a 6'2" CEO who clearly lived in the gym. I had no physical move here, but I had a mouth. "You dare touch my woman?" Gavin hissed, his fist raised high. I snapped both hands over my head in a standard French salute of surrender. "Brother, it's a misunderstanding." I spoke at lightning speed, my voice projecting clearly. Gavin froze, his fist suspended in midair. "I'm just splitting the bill," I said, pointing at the steak. "The food here is too expensive, and Ms. Vance couldn't finish it alone, so she asked me to help pay for it. I didn't realize you'd be showing up." Sophie tugged at my shirt from behind, her voice shrill. "Liam, what are you talking about? Didn't you say you'd do anything for me?" I looked back at her with total sincerity. "I would, but I have an interview this afternoon. If I show up looking like a car wreck, the hiring manager will think I have a messy personal life. It'll tank my chances. Ms. Vance, love is precious, but a salary is priceless." I turned back to the stunned Gavin. "Look, man, she hasn't touched a bite. I ate it all. I'll pay for the meal as an apology to you both. Now, can you let go of my shirt? I just bought it for $80, and I haven't even cut the tags off yet." Gavin's worldview was crumbling. He had expected resistance, or a dramatic confession of love, or even me begging for mercy on my knees. He hadn't expected me to pull out a calculator. He looked at me like I was a lunatic, and his grip loosened. I seized the chance to slip out like an eel, straightened my collar, and slapped a $100 bill on the table. The meat was a bit tough anyway. Probably only worth this much. "You two have a nice chat. Just cover the rest of the tab, okay?" With that, I grabbed my portfolio, greased my heels, and bolted. Behind me, I heard Sophie's hysterical screams and Gavin's confused, angry roars. But that had nothing to do with me anymore. I was Liam Miller, a pragmatic professional who only cared about his bottom line. I ran 2 blocks before I dared to stop for air. My heart was thumping against my ribs. That move was like tap dancing in a minefield. Any slower, and I'd be in the ER right now. I touch my face. Intact. I check my watch. 1:50 p.m. 40 minutes until the interview. I hailed a cab. Destination, the Sterling Group Tower. That's right. The company I was interviewing for was the rival branch managed by Gavin's older sister, Gwen Sterling. The most dangerous place is often the safest. Besides, rumor had it that Gwen was a total workaholic who lived despite her love-brained younger brother. The enemy of my enemy is my boss. At the building, I took a deep breath and adjusted my expression, switching from survivor's relief to sincere desire for corporate exploitation. I walked into the conference room, filled out the forms, and waited. 2:30 p.m. The door opened. The woman in the lead had a presence even more stifling than Gavin's. Short hair, sharp suit, eyes like a hawk. Gwen Sterling. My heart skipped a beat. She shared about 30% of Gavin's facial features, especially that look that suggested she was staring at a piece of trash. It must be genetic. She flipped through my resume, her brow furrowing slightly. Liam Miller? She looked up, her gaze lingering on my face for 2 seconds. Are you the bill-splitting guy who just tried to settle accounts with my brother at a steakhouse? Me? Bad news really does travel fast. The world was too small. The other two interviewers were ducking their heads to hide their smirks. I grit my teeth and straightened my spine. Ms. Sterling, that was crisis management. Gwen arched an eyebrow, intrigued. Go on. When facing an unstoppable force, an enraged Gavin Sterling, confrontation is the worst strategy. By shifting the conflict, the split bill, I lowered the target's aggression and preserved my personal assets, namely, my face and my shirt. That is the optimal solution. Furthermore, I successfully pressured Mr. Sterling into paying the remainder of the tab, saving myself a significant expense. I believe this level of cost control and crisis mitigation is exactly what a qualified executive assistant needs. The room was silent for 3 seconds. Then Gwen laughed, not a polite corporate chuckle, but genuine amusement. Interesting. She closed the resume and tapped her finger on the table. I heard you used to be Sophie Vance's pursuer. A trap question. I immediately took on a serious tone. That is a past tense situation. People grow up. They realize that love doesn't pay the rent, but a salary does. Right now, I only want to build a career, not a relationship. Especially not with someone associated with a man who thinks illegal restraint and screaming in public are personality traits. The amusement in Gwen's eyes deepened. She clearly enjoyed hearing someone trash her headache of a brother. You're hired, she said, standing up with efficient grace. Start tomorrow. 3-month probation. But let me be clear, if I find you getting tangled up with that side of the family again, and it affects your work. She made a sharp, cutting gesture across her throat. I snapped to attention. Don't worry, boss. My heart belongs to the KPIs. Stepping out of the building into the biting sunlight, I almost wanted to cry. I hadn't been beaten up, and I'd landed the job. This is how a transmigrator should live. But before I could celebrate for too long, my phone buzzed. Caller ID, Sophie Vance. She was like a ghost that wouldn't stay buried. I didn't want to answer, but to prevent her from stalking me at the office later, I had to shut this down permanently. I picked up. Sophie's voice came through, thick with tears. Liam, you jerk. How could you leave me there? Gavin took me home and confiscated my phone. I'm using the maid's phone to call you. Come save me. He says he's going to lock me in the basement. I sighed, walking toward the subway entrance as I gave calm reply. Ms. Vance, kidnapping and false imprisonment are felonies. The number for the police is 911, not my personal cell. I'm an assistant, not a Navy SEAL. If I go to save you, I'm just delivering another body to the pile. Sophie went quiet, clearly stunned by my coldness. Yeah, that was the old me. The current me values my life. Sophie, you're 22, not 2. Liam asserted his changed self. Sophie, you're 22, not 2. Sophie, you're 22, not 2. If you actually hate Gavin's behavior, there are 1,000 ways to call the police or ask your family for help. You're calling me because you want me to fight Gavin so you can watch 2 men fight over you to satisfy your ego, right? Dead silence on the other end. That was the whole setup of this trashy book. The female lead screams no, while secretly enjoying the thrill of men shedding blood for her. Sophie seemed to want to argue, but couldn't find the words. Take some advice, I said, finding a corner to stand in on the train. You're an individual, not a trophy. If you really don't want to be with him, cut it off clean. Don't play games with him while using me as a tool. I'm Busse. I have to get up early for the subway tomorrow. Goodbye. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. The world went silent. My reflection in the subway window showed a tired face. The original guy was actually quite handsome, clean-cut and boyish, but his eyes used to have that naive look of someone who hadn't been slapped by reality yet. Now, they were full of the weary cynicism of a dead fish. Back in my tiny 300-square-foot studio, I boiled a pot of ramen. I added an egg, a reward for surviving the day. I ate, showered, and crashed. CEOs, female leads, and billionaire family feuds meant nothing compared to the 8:00 a.m. punch clock. On my first day, I learned just how terrifying Gwen Sterling could be. She truly treated women like men and men like pack animals. By noon, I'd run to 4 different departments, compiled 3 sets of meeting minutes, and blocked 2 relatives trying to use their names to skip the line. I didn't sit down once, but I felt fulfilled. I saw my desk. It was right outside the center of power. As long as I clung to Gwen's coattails, Gavin would have to think twice before touching me. 3 p.m., break room. I was grinding coffee beans for Gwen. This was part of the job, pour over coffee. It was a skill the original Liam had, and I was putting it to good use. Suddenly, the door swung open. A familiar scent of expensive cologne filled the room. Gavin Sterling. Of course. He was wearing a perfectly tailored black suit, his face as dark as a thundercloud. When he saw my Sterling Group badge, he looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. "What the hell are you doing here?" He marched over and snatched the kettle out of my hand. A few drops of scalding water splashed onto the back of my hand. Ouch! It burned like hell, but I didn't make a sound. I just looked at him coldly. "Mr. Sterling, that is the director's coffee. I asked you a question." Gavin slammed the kettle onto the marble counter. "Who gave you permission to step foot in this building? A pathetic little dog like you doesn't belong in my company." "Your company?" I smiled, a hint of mockery in my eyes. "As far as I know, this subsidiary's legal representative is Gwen Sterling, and she holds the controlling interest. You're the group CEO, but your reach seems to be exceeding your grasp. Also, I am Ms. Sterling's executive assistant. I'd appreciate some respect." Gavin laughed, but there was no humor in it. He reached for my collar, his signature move. "Respect? For you? I'll have you fired right now." "Drop it." A cold, female voice rang out from the doorway. Gwen was leaning against the frame, arms crossed, her gaze icy. "Gavin, you're laying hands on my staff? In my office? You want to die?" Only 4 words, but they were more effective than 100 of Gavin's roars. Gavin's hand froze. He turned around, his face turning the color of a beet. "Gwen, do you have any idea who this guy is? He's the one who was obsessed with Sophie." "I know," Gwen interrupted. She walked over, took the coffee cup from my hand, and glanced at the red burn on my skin. "Go to the infirmary. This counts as a workplace injury." Then she turned back to Gavin, her eyes turning frigid. "He is my assistant now. He's capable, efficient, and he listens. He's 10,000 times more useful than that little girlfriend of yours who does nothing but cry and scramble your brains. If you want to throw a tantrum, go back to HQ. Don't stain my floor." Gavin was shaking with rage, pointing between me and Gwen. "Fina, great. You're ganging up on me now." Just then, a small head peeked around the break room door. Sophie. She had followed Gavin here, hiding in the back. She was staring at the scene with wide eyes, watching me stand behind Gwen, poised and indifferent, while Gavin acted like a petulant child. The contrast was humiliating. Gavin noticed her and immediately tried to grab her hand. "Sophie, you see? This guy is devious." Sophie stepped back, avoiding his touch. Her eyes were fixed on the red welt on my hand, her brow furrowed. "Gavin, you went too far. He was just doing his job." For the first time in the history of the original plot, Sophie had publicly contradicted Gavin to defend me. I wasn't moved. I just had a headache. "Lady, you're just fanning the flames. Can't you see Gavin's eyes are literally glowing with rage? What did I do to deserve being stuck between these 3 lunatics?" Gavin was eventually escorted out by security on Gwen's orders, with Sophie in tow. Finally, peace. I treated the burn and went back to work. Gwen seemed pleased. "Good nerves," she said, taking a sip of the coffee. 10% raise. I suddenly felt no pain at all. I let him burn the other hand for another 10%. That's the power of capital. For the next few days, Gavin didn't show, but I knew it was just the calm before the storm. Sure enough, on the 3rd afternoon, a woman appeared at the lobby. The original mean girl of the book, my college junior, Lindsay Ross. She'd had a crush on the original Liam for years and had always been jealous of Sophie. The moment she saw me, she lunged at me, tears welling up. "Liam, I heard you were being bullied here. Is it that bitch Sophie's fault? I'll get revenge for you." My eyelid twitched. Another one with a broken brain. I sidestepped her frantic lunge and maintained a professional distance. Lindsay, I'm at work. Please behave yourself. Liam, I'm worried about you. Lindsay cried, her voice loud enough to draw the security guard's attention. How can you work for the Sterlings? They treated you so badly. Let's team up. We'll take down Sophie and make Gavin regret everything. I looked up at the ceiling, speechless. What kind of middle school dialogue is this? Take down Sophie? With what? Your tears. Sorry, I don't have time to play house, I said, checking my watch. I had a meeting to prep for. My goal is a promotion and a raise, not joining the Avengers. Please leave. As I spoke, a taxi pulled up at the curb. Sophie stepped out. She was carrying a thermos, looking like she was here to visit a patient. She froze when she saw Lindsay. Lindsay, seeing her, charged forward like she'd been injected with adrenaline. Sophie Vance, you have the nerve to show up here. The two women immediately descended into a brawl. Hair pulling, scratching, screaming. It was utter chaos. The female lead and the villainess, fighting over a background character like me. If this were written in a book, the readers would be flaming the author. But I wasn't a reader. I was a participant. A participant who very much wanted to leave. The security guard looked at me. Mr. Miller, what do we do? I kept my face expressionless. I don't know them. Break them up before they damage the company's image. With that, I turned and walked into the elevator, hitting the closed door button. The door slid shut, cutting off the screams and the scratching. I let out a long breath. If someone has to go to hell, it's not going to be me. I'm staying out of this circus. Back in the office, Gwen looked at me with a smirk. You're quite the heartbreaker, aren't you? I gave her a bitter smile. Ms. Sterling, this is a curse, not a blessing. Are you going to dock my pay? Gwen waved a hand. No, you usually have to buy a ticket for a show that good. Though, Sophie actually seems to be changing. She pointed out the window. Down below, Sophie hadn't done what she usually did, cry and call Gavin after a fight. She had pushed Lindsay away, straightened her messy hair, and looked up at our floor. Across dozens of stories and a glass curtain wall, I couldn't see her expression, but I had a bad feeling. The love brain was starting to grow a real brain. And for me, that wasn't necessarily a good thing. Sophie asked to meet me at the coffee shop across from the office. I wanted to say no, but she said, Liam, I just have a few questions. I'll leave right after. I won't pester you. Her tone was uncharacteristically calm. I went. 10 minutes. That was my limit. Sophie sat in the corner, a Band-Aid on her face from her scuffle with Lindsay. Without her usual heavy makeup, she looked tired, but her eyes were clearer. Sit, she said, pushing the thermos toward me. I made the soup myself. It's probably not very good. I didn't touch it. Ms. Vance, let's get to the point. I have 10 minutes. Sophie gave a self-deprecating laugh. You really hate me now. I don't hate you. I just don't want trouble. I said honestly. Liam, I thought about what you said for a long time. She gripped her coffee cup, her knuckles white. I really am just a trophy. All my life, I've been Vance's daughter, then Gavin's girlfriend. I've never had a job, never earned a cent. I didn't even know how to use the subway until yesterday. She looked up at me, her gaze lost. I want to leave Gavin, but I don't know what I'm even capable of. Can you teach me? I looked at her. Was this really the same spoiled princess who demanded I feed her? I guess pressure really does bring out potential. I stopped being her doormat, and she finally started thinking about her life. I can't teach you, I said, checking the time. 5 minutes left, but I can give you a suggestion. Deactivate the credit cards Gavin gave you. Sell the designer bags. Go rent a cheap apartment and find a job. Even if it's just working as a cashier at a convenience store, it'll be money you earned. When you can support yourself, that's when you have the right to talk about independence. Sophie listened intently, like a student in a lecture. But I don't know how to do anything. Nobody is born knowing things. I stood up to leave. When I graduated, I ate nothing but bread for a month to save money. I slept in a sleeping bag at the office for weeks to finish projects. That's real life, Sophie. The kind of happiness in romance novels that requires zero effort. It's fake. I walked away without looking back. At the door, I heard a soft thank you. My footsteps faltered for a second, but I didn't turn around. I felt a weird sense of satisfaction. Is this what it feels like to be a life coach? It felt way better than being a simp. Back at the office, I put the encounter out of my mind. Until the next day, a massive scandal broke in the city's elite social circles. Sophie Vance, the heiress to the Vance fortune, had run away from home. No phone, no cards, nothing. Gavin went nuclear. He used every connection he had to scour the city. He even called Gwen's office, screaming into the phone, asking if I had hidden her. Gwen put the call on speaker and set the phone on her desk, continuing to sign documents while he barked on the other end. I stood by her side, silently rolling my eyes. It seemed the butterfly effect was in full swing. The plot was officially dead. Unable to find Sophie, Gavin redirected his rage at me. In his simple mind, all of Sophie's changes were my fault. The Sterling Group HQ started targeting Gwen's subsidiary projects, stalling approvals, stealing clients, and aggressive price cutting. It was petty and dirty. Gwen was buried in work, and her temper was fraying. The office was a high-pressure zone. But I actually found it interesting. The more Gavin targeted me, the more it proved how pathetic he was. He couldn't handle Sophie, so he came after his rival. Wednesday afternoon, I was heading out to negotiate with a major supplier. As I left the building, 2 black sedans cut me off. Several hulking men stepped out. Mr. Miller, Mr. Sterling would like to have a word. The cliché was painful, but I got in the car. It was broad daylight. I doubted he'd actually try to bury me. The car took me to a private club. Gavin was sitting on a leather sofa, cigar in hand, surrounded by a cloud of smoke. He was really leaning into the villain aesthetic. Liam Miller, you've got guts. He flicked ash onto the carpet. Where is Sophie? I found a comfortable chair and sat down, showing zero signs of being a hostage. Mr. Sterling, you should ask the police that. I'm Gwen's assistant, not Sophie's nanny. Don't play dumb with me. Gavin lunged to his feet, smashing a teacup at my feet. Shards flew everywhere. She wanted to see you that day, and then she vanished. You're the one who hid her. Do you really think I can't make sure you never work in this city again? I looked down at the tea stains on my pants. This pair cost me $300. Mr. Sterling, is this how you ask for favors? I looked up, my expression flat. You can't find her because she doesn't want to see you. The more you lose your mind, the further she'll run. You have no idea what she actually wants. Gavin sneered. What she wants? She wants money and to be pampered. What haven't I given her? She wants respect. I stood up and brushed off my pants. But to you, she's just a pet. Gavin, you lost. Not to me, but to your own pathetic need for control. I turned to leave. The bodyguards blocked the door. I looked back. Mr. Sterling, false imprisonment, plus the dry cleaning bill for these pants. Are you sure you want to escalate this? My boss, Gwen Sterling, is likely already on her way with a team of lawyers. Gavin's face went through a spectrum of colors. Finally, he waved his hand. The guards moved aside. I stepped out of the club, just as Gwen's car pulled up to the curb. She lowered the window and beckoned me. Get in. I slid in the passenger seat and let out a long breath. Perfect timing, boss. Gwen glanced at me. If I hadn't shown up, were you going to fight him? Unlikely. I buckled my seatbelt. I'm a man of peace. I only use my words. But I think it's time to hit back. Gwen arched an eyebrow. Ow! Since Gavin cares so much about Sophie, let's make it hurt. The Southside redevelopment project? We can take it now. Gavin was so obsessed with finding her that his business judgment was at an all-time low. It was the perfect opening. Gwen looked at me, a flash of admiration in her eyes. Liam, you've become quite the shark. Thank you, boss. It's just professional survival. A week later, Sophie reappeared. She wasn't caught. She came back on her own. It was during a Vance family dinner. Gavin was there. Sophie walked in wearing a cheap but professional-looking suit. She was thinner and a bit tanned, but her eyes were incredibly bright. Gavin rushed toward her. Sophie, where have you been? I've been going crazy. Sophie stepped back, coolly avoiding him. She pulled a card from her bag and set it on the table. This is the balance of the money you gave me over the years. I sold the jewelry you bought me and converted it to cash. I'm still a little short, but I'll sign a promissory note and pay you back over time. The room went dead silent. Gavin froze. Sophie, what is this? Do we really need to keep score like this? Yes. Sophie's voice was quiet but firm. Gavin, it's over. I don't love you. Or rather, I never loved the real you. I just love the golden cage you built for me. Now, the cage is broken, and I'm going to fly. Gavin's face went pale. He wanted to rage, to roar, to force her to stay. But looking into her cold, distant eyes, he realized his old tricks wouldn't work. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. Is it because of Liam Miller? Gavin hissed, his voice trembling. Is it him? Sophie blinked, then laughed. It has nothing to do with him. But he did teach me one thing. You have to love yourself before anyone else can love you. Gavin, you don't love me. You love your own sense of control. With that, Sophie turned and walked out. Decisive and graceful. She left Gavin standing there, unraveling. I heard the details of the scene from Gwen later. I had actually been there, waiting in a car outside to pick Sophie up. She had asked me to come. She said she was afraid she'd lose her nerve and needed someone outside to keep her brave. I was her emotional support mascot. When Sophie got in the car, her hands were still shaking. But she was beaming. Liam, I did it. Congratulations. I started the engine. Where to? My apartment. I have to be up early for the bus tomorrow. She was working as an intern at a design firm now. The pay was peanuts and the work was grueling, but she was happy. Looking at the girl humming a tune in the rearview mirror, I smiled. It was good. The plot had drifted all the way across the Atlantic. What was supposed to be a toxic melodrama had turned into a story of female empowerment. And I, the disposable side character, had done my good deed for the decade. After the breakup, Gavin became a laughingstock. He started drinking, moping, and shouting Sophie's name in the streets at night. Sterling Group's stock price actually took a dip. Gwen took the opportunity to snatch up several major projects. We were in the office, celebrating with champagne, when I was told Gavin was here to see me. And he had brought a checkbook. $1 million. He slammed the check onto my desk. He was unshaven, with dark circles under his eyes. The mighty so was gone. Teach me. I was eating my takeout lunch and nearly choked. Teach you what? Teach me how to make her come back. Gavin looked at me with bloodshot eyes. She only listens to you. You must have a way. I put down my chopsticks and looked at the check. Honestly, I was tempted. $1 million? That'd buy me 2 houses back in my hometown. But I was a man of principle. That kind of money comes with strings. Mr. Sterling, this is a relationship counseling matter. It's outside my job description. $2 million. He slapped another check down. Me? Is this how the 1% lives? Mr. Sterling, it's not about the money. I sighed. The problem is that you haven't changed. You want her back because you feel like you lost a possession and your ego can't handle it. Not because you respect her as an independent person. Until that mindset changes, even if you get her back, you'll just repeat the same mistakes. Gavin froze. He had likely never been analyzed so bluntly in his life. Then what should I do? His voice went quiet, sounding like a lost child. I looked at this man who used to think he owned the world and felt a flicker of pity. He was a victim of the CEO trope, logic too. Go fix your head, I said, pointing at my temple. Learn respect. Learn equality. Learn that if you love something, sometimes you have to let it go. That's what a man does. Gavin was silent for a long time. Finally, he silently picked up the checks. He turned and walked away, his silhouette looking small and lonely. I stared at my empty desk, feeling a pain in my chest so sharp I could hardly breathe. $2 million. Why did I have to act so cool? Couldn't I have just taken the money and given him some vague advice? Liam, you're an idiot. Gwen walked in and saw my look of pure agony. What's wrong? Constipation. Worse. I slumped over my desk with a groan. I just turned down $2 million. Gwen chuckled. Good for you. Look, I'll make sure your year-end bonus is massive, so you don't feel too bad. I was instantly revitalized. I love this company. Life seemed to be getting back on track. If I ignore the fact that Sophie was harassing me with increasing frequency, she started asking me out constantly, using every excuse in the book, thanking her savior, asking for career advice, even asking me to review her lease agreement. I wasn't a fool. The look in her eyes was unmistakable. I had a bad feeling that the plot was trying to veer back into soap opera territory. One night, after working late, I saw Sophie waiting outside the building. She was clutching a hot cup of tea, shivering in the wind. When she saw me, her face lit up. Liam, she ran over and pressed the tea into my hands. For you. Extra honey, just how you like it. Holding the warm cup, I felt the heat rising in my chest. Sophie, it's late. You didn't have to. I wanted to, she interrupted, looking up at me with total focus. Liam, can I date you? A direct hit. I nearly choked on my own breath. Wait, what? Don't say no yet, Sophie said, patting my back. I know I'm broke right now, but I have potential. I'm going to work hard. I want to be like you, independent and clear-headed. And I think we really click. I coughed, tried to figure out a way to decline. This was surreal. The female lead was chasing the side character. If Gavin saw this. Speak of the devil. A black sedan pulled up silently. The window rolled down to reveal Gavin's brooding face. Great. The showdown finally arrived. Gavin stepped out of the car, carrying a bouquet of flowers. It seemed he had actually listened to me and was trying the gentle romantic approach. And then he walked right into this. Sophie's confession had been caught, but she didn't panic. She didn't even look at Gavin. She kept her eyes on me. Liam, just give me a chance. Gavin walked over, his grip on the flowers so tight the stems were snapping. But he didn't roar. The overbearing aura was gone, replaced by a crushing sense of defeat. Why? He asked Sophie, his voice rasping. I've changed. I'm trying to respect you. Why him? Sophie finally turned. She looked at him with a gaze that was perfectly still. Because when I'm with him, I'm Sophie Vance. When I'm with you, I'm always just a little girl who needs protection. I don't want protection anymore, Gavin. I want to be an equal partner. Gavin's face turned ashen. He'd lost. Completely. I stood there with my tea, feeling like a massive third wheel. But I had to speak up, or we'd be stuck in a dramatic standoff all night. Stop, I said, raising a hand. Okay, Ms. Vance, Mr. Sterling. While I'm flattered, I need to make one thing clear. My only priority is my career. High-risk, low-reward activities like romance are not on my schedule right now. So could you two move aside? I'm going to miss the last train. I didn't wait for their reactions. I shoved the tea into Gavin's arms. Here, Mr. Sterling. This one's on me. It's got extra honey. You look like you need something sweet. Then I ran. 100 yards away, I looked back. They were still standing under the streetlight like statues. I shook my head. Young people, they just don't have enough work to do. To escape this weird love triangle, I started a strategy of mutual motivation. I told Sophie, I don't like people who aren't on my level. You want to date me? Fine. Come back when you have a higher title and a bigger salary than me. It was a stalling tactic, but worked as a challenge. Sophie was fired up. Fine. Just you wait, Liam Miller. From then on, she became a workaholic. Her designs were incredible, and within 6 months, she won a Rising Star Award. She was too busy to bother me. Then I told Gavin, Mr. Sterling, if you really want to fix your image, stop stalking your ex. Make the Sterling Group a Fortune 500 powerhouse. When you're at the top of the world, you'll have your pick of the elite. Besides, Sophie respects career success now. The only way she'll ever look at you again is if you crush it in business. Gavin thought that made perfect sense. He stopped the moping and threw himself into his work, even heading to Africa to oversee the company's international expansion. He called it becoming a better man. Finally, I was free. Peace was restored. I got promoted too. Gwen made me a project director. No more coffee runs. I had my own office. One day, Gwen came in to check on things. She saw me sipping tea and smiled. Liam, you're a genius. You turned 2 obsessed lovers into corporate machines. You solved my family drama and made the company a fortune. Should I give you a Sterling Hero Award? I gave a humble wave. Just resource optimization, boss. Putting the right people in the right lanes to maximize value. Gwen walked to the window, looking out of the Manhattan skyline. And you? Are you in your right lane? I paused. My lane? My lane was staying alive, keeping my job, and building a very comfortable savings account. In a world of toxic drama and violence, I had become a normal, successful person. That was more than enough. Absolutely, I said, holding my tea up to the sunlight. Life is good. A year later, Gavin returned. He was tan and fit from his time abroad, his eyes lacking the old malice but full of a new, steady weight. He was back for Sophie's solo design exhibition. Sophie was now a well-known name in the industry. The gallery was packed. Gavin stood before a piece titled The Cage, a painting of a canary breaking through golden bars, bloodied but soaring. Sophie walked up behind him. Do you like it? Gavin turned to face the confident, elegant woman she had become. He gave a genuine smile. Ido. Sophie, I'm sorry. The apology was a year late, but it was finally said. Sophie smiled and reached out a hand. It's okay, Mr. Sterling. That Mr. Sterling drew a final, clear line. They shook hands, then let go. A clean slate. I watched from the side, sipping champagne, the unsung hero of the whole ordeal. This was the perfect ending. No toxic reunion. No groveling for forgiveness success story. Just 2 people moving on. Liam. Sophie saw me and walked over, clutching her award. I've been promoted, I got a raise, and I just won this. She tilted her head playfully. I'm still not making as much as you, but I'm a great investment. Am I qualified to date you yet? People around us started whispering and cheering. I looked at her. She had grown so much. If I ignored the plot, she really was a great woman. But, just as I was about to speak, Gwen's voice cut through the noise. She was wearing a stunning black evening gown, radiating power. Ms. Vance, Liam's my right-hand man. She walked over and naturally rested a hand on my shoulder, smiling at Sophie. Trying to poach my staff right in front of me? That's a bit bold, don't you think? Sophie blinked. She looked at Gwen, then at me. A look of understanding flashed in her eyes. Ms. Sterling, you're joking. I was just hoping to learn some success secrets from Liam. I breathed a sigh of relief and gave Gwen a grateful look. Gwen winked at me, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Well, Liam, make sure to compile a report of your success secrets for Ms. Vance. We're all about industry growth here. She patted my shoulder. As for your private life, I'll leave that to you. Sophie laughed. Thank you for the advice, Ms. Sterling. She waved at me and walked away, looking perfectly content. I followed Gwen to a quieter corner of the gallery. The sun was setting, and I was nobody's doormat and nobody's substitute. The man who just wanted to survive an interview was now the one choosing who got to interview him. This was the story of Leah Miller. I looked at Gwen as she checked her phone, a faint, rare smile on her lips. Ms. Sterling, about the final proposal for the South Side project. I'd like to discuss it with you privately. I put a slight emphasis on privately. Gwen looked up, her gaze sweeping past me toward Gavin in the distance before settling back on me. Sure, let's talk in my office. She turned and headed for the exit. I knew Gwen's move was partly to help me out and partly to signal her dominance to Gavin. But it didn't matter. I was still that same pragmatic professional. Only now I had a powerful and very interesting ally by my side.